Section 1001 of the United States Code. With that, we will now recognize Mr. John Czwartacki for his 5 minutes to give an opening statement. And if you need a little bit extra time, we'll be flexible.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Chairman Griffith, and Ranking Member Castor, and members of this committee. I'm honored to testify today to share how important innovation is and the hope it provides to millions, to me, and millions of patients like me. First, I want to say how much personal respect I have for this committee, and especially the U.S. House, where I had my first job after college. I was young, healthy, and saw myself as indestructible, rarely getting even a cold. I wasn't a patient, I was impatient for life to get going. In fact, it was right across the street while working in 1100 Longworth when I had my first MS symptom. Without warning, I lost sight in my left eye. I was 23, diagnosed with MS, with multiple sclerosis. Later that year, 1993, I was the first disease-modifying treatment, or DMT, was approved for MS. Prior to this, generations of MS patients suffered their cruel disease with little hope of relief. Then, a specific drug interferon was discovered to slow progression of disease for many patients, many but not all. A flywheel of innovation was set in motion 10 years earlier. Back in 1984, a long, hard-fought compromise was reached between ideological opposites, Liberal Democrat Henry Waxman, right up there, and conservative Republican Orrin Hatch. The results were a pipeline of life-saving treatments, catapulting the U.S. from a laggard in medical discovery to its undisputed global leader. I was put on the only DMT approved for MS once my symptoms began escalating. Numbness in my torso, face and hands, pins and needles, minor stuff, mostly invisible, just background noise. The problem was, despite being proven effective for many MS patients, it wasn't working for me. As I began a new job in the Senate, the attacks got so severe they became impossible to ignore. Hospitalized for weeks, moved to a nursing home, I was suffering from unpredictable seizures. I couldn't walk or even safely swallow. I was 28. I was supposed to be on life's launch pad, not in long-term care. 60 years too soon. My parents saw how dejected I was and offered to help. They rented a hospital bed and moved me back into my childhood home. Thankfully, a second DMT for MS was recently been approved. On May 1st, 1998, I began daily injections. They took a few weeks to kick in, but once they did, my life began again. My body was finally getting a break from my own haywire immune system. Combined with targeted physical therapy, rest, and prayer, I was able to move out of my parents' basement, regain a meaningful career, and meet my future wife and start a family. In short, the drug saved my life in every way possible. We were soon a family of 6, blessed with 4 healthy and active boys. I was living a dream. Baseball games, hockey practice, and homemade hoverboards that defined my life for 20 years, not my MS. Not surprisingly, after two decades, the treatment began to lose effectiveness. I would need 2 more breakthrough drugs, both recently discovered, to keep me mostly upright and productive. I'm here today to remind you that policy choices made in this town have real impact on real patients. You need to understand lives are changed by policies you create. Sometimes, like in my case, for the better. But this time, I'm afraid, for the worse. Being a government nerd, I read the almost 300 pages of price control pages of the IRA, a bill pushed by one side of the aisle with little public debate. I became enraged. It's a sick experiment on people who are sick with disease. No study on the policy to see if it's safe and effective. No clinical trial to check if it has painful side effects. The only certain outcome is an end to the policy that I credit for saving my life and create a medical miracle machine, I should say. So instead of spreading hope, the government is now rationing out doses of despair. If you can fix this, first do no harm wasn't your thing last year, but it's not too late. When you're in a hole, you can stop digging. Stop doubling down on a policy that is taking hope from those who need it most. I can never repay the unnamed research scientists who are responsible for my wonderful life. But what I can do is stand up for the unheard patient. I can remind policymakers that cost can be a problem, but it's not the problem. Illness is the problem. And while a cure never discovered shows savings on a CBO spreadsheet, nothing is more costly than a loved one losing their life. Here's a little secret. I'm here today, not just for me and my kids, not just for the families at St. Jude's, or even your folks back home. It's for everyone, including you and those young staffers behind you, because I was you guys when I faced the hard truth. We're not indestructible. We're all patients. We're are or will be. I'm honored to have a chance to share my story and speak up for patient hope, because ultimately it's hope that matters most. Thank you very much.
Thank the gentleman for his testimony.